there is also just some delicious, wonderfully illustrative climate change / global warming news that also establishes my bona fides as a superior supreme analyst, telling you how and why this particular issue is effective on young people and how ridiculous it has all become. And yet, no matter how ridiculous the daily news on climate change is, young millennials who have been propagandized into believing it just lap it up. And I have some examples today that you won't believe. You won't believe anybody could fall for this. You won't believe anybody that has the ability to think would literally believe these two examples that I have for you. But they do. And I have proof that they do because the people I'm talking about are writing pieces how frightened and scared they are and how urgent the need to finally fix climate change is. Then, of course, we have the continued fallout over the failed effort by the Democrats to destroy Donald Trump via the government shutdown on immigration, which is actually a shutdown on the budget. But this was a giant bomb. It was a bigger bomb than we even calculated yesterday. An afternoon and night of consulting the drive-by media indicates that they are so ashamed and so embarrassed by the performance of Chuck Schumer and the Democrats, they're not holding back. They're launching into the Democrats about what a bonehead move it was. And they are writing about the Democrats the way Republicans are usually written about following government shutdowns, complete with stories featuring the Democrat base, that bunch of literal left-wing radicals fit to be tied over the Democrats blowing this. And it's even better. The Dreamers themselves, this group of illegal immigrants, is also livid. And they're speaking out as members of a special interest group as though they have as much credibility and credence as any other group of citizens have. And they are mad at the Democrats. They are mad. They don't understand how this happened. They don't understand why Chuck Schumer caved. And it's interesting, these people on the left are claiming that they're getting tired of their leaders being a bunch of wusses who never fight back. You know, and I read this, it's fascinating because that's what our side thinks about our guys. And we think of them that they're constantly on offense and that they are never ending, so oppressive, and that they never let up, and that they've got their friends and buddies in the drive-by media to pound home all their distortions and their lies. And how our side quivers and cowers in the corner in fear over what the media might say about them. And to read these left-wing radicals describe Schumer as spineless and gutless as a poltroon, it's just delicious, folks. It's just delectable out there. By the way, a little addendum. I just saw a graphic on CNN, and it's the first I've seen of this. I have to track it down. Chuck Schumer has taken border wall funding off the table. Presumably this is in the next negotiations on the next government shutdown 3 weeks from now. You realize this stuff all happens again 3 weeks from now. Chuck Schumer has just announced that border wall funding is off the table. He's no longer going to offer Trump any funding for the wall in order to get... This is Chuck trying to reestablish, flex the muscles. This is Chuck responding to the base. Everybody knows that the only way Trump is going to sign off on this is if they're... Look, the deal has always been... If you want to get mad at this, then I would understand it. The deal's always been, the Republican deal, the Trump deal has always been some kind of amnesty for the Dreamers with a limit on chain migration in exchange for border wall funding. Everybody has known that's what the ultimate deal is going to be when it's struck. This is what the White House offered the Democrats 3 different times, 3 different ways. The Democrats turned it all down because they thought the Republicans would cave on the shutdown like they always do because the media would hammer them. And, of course, it all went the other way. The Republicans didn't cave. Trump didn't even talk to them. They couldn't even get hold of Trump. Jim Acosta at CNN was panicking. He couldn't find Trump. Jim Acosta was worried something had happened to Trump. Jim Acosta knows his career is nothing if Trump's not around. And Trump, he had gone silent for a couple of days and nobody heard from him, and they're all worried. Something happened to Trump. Where's Trump? We need Trump. The people that hate Trump, trying to destroy Trump, wondering if he's okay. So now Schumer comes up today and says, sorry, border wall funding will not be part of any amnesty. Well, that's stalemate. That's pure stalemate. How can it end? Define sturdily as how can it end well for Schumer? We now have, just like we have to redefine smart, we have to redefine ending well. What is ending well for Chuck Schumer? A government shutdown where the Republicans cave. Yes, in their minds. In their mind, that's their playbook. Look, the Democrats have comfort levels on things they've done in the past that have worked. They're not innovative. The evidence of this is they still don't know how to deal with Trump. They still don't know who Trump is. And for the life of them, they can't best him. They can't outsmart him. They can't get ahead of him. So they're going back to the old standbys in the playbook. Government shutdown, Republicans get blamed. How do you make that happen? You simply take what Trump wants off the table and you insist that we're going to get amnesty for the dreamers and no chain migration, or we're going to shut down the government for as long as it takes. They got to shore up their base. If they lose their base, the midterms are irrelevant. They've got to hold on to their base. Now, holding on to their base is going to do more damage to them elsewhere throughout the political spectrum, but they'll deal with that later. This to them is getting to first base. If you don't get to first base, you can't score. They've got to get to first base. And by that, I mean they've got to put on their show for their radical leftist base. And that means full-fledged amnesty with no wall. No blueprints for a wall, no drawings, no nothing, no dreams of a wall, and certainly no wall for real. And then you tell Trump 3 weeks early, okay, Trump, no wall, no funding, no nothing for the wall. And we want full-fledged amnesty and chain for the dreamers. So we're watching self-immolation. Of course, it's stupid, but are you having trouble grasping that they've got to get there? They're losing their base over this. And if they lose their base, they've got, what do they build from? You have to have something to build from. They still think they're going to win the House because people hate Trump. No. Again, you're making the mistake of trying to rationally analyze irrational people. If you just step back from that and realize you can't analyze them as you would analyze yourself in a rational decision-making process. They're not rational right now. They're panicked. They just lost a government shutdown. They lost it in the media. They lost it with their own voters. They lost it with the general public. You realize they do not know what that's like. They've never been there. It's Panic City. And when you panic, you react, overreact, and that's what we're watching here. And by the way, the generic ballot polls continue to tighten. The Democrats continue to lose the lead that they have. They still have it. Here is John King from CNN, this just moments ago at a program called Inside Politics. And this is CNN's official report that Chuck Schumer is taking funding for the wall off the table in the upcoming negotiations on the budget 3 weeks from now, which could result in another shutdown. Here we go.
On the Senate side, Chuck Schumer taking a lot of heat from the progressives in his party, are filmatically confirming from a Democratic aide that Chuck Schumer today has taken significant border funding for the wall off the table. He offered that to the president last week. Now Chuck Schumer says, never mind.
Wait, no, wrong. You guys have this all backwards. Schumer didn't offer anything. Schumer rejected everything. It was Trump the Republicans in the White House that offered three different versions of an immigration plan that would allow the Democrats to vote to continue to keep the government open, i.e., to continue for the continuing resolution on the budget. It was a budget shutdown. It wasn't an immigration shutdown. Now, this, of course, it was not reported that way, but the reason the government shut down was not because of an argument over immigration. It shut down because they, quote unquote, ran out of money, which is as bogus. The government never runs out of money. They have a printing press. But Rush, there's a debt limit. Right, the debt limit. And whenever we reach it, they just increase it. There isn't a debt limit. The government doesn't run out of money. They can take anybody's money anytime they want. They can print money anytime they want. But within the constraints of budget, the way they are made, and the rules and regulations, the government ran out of money. And the argument over what to do about immigration is why there was a reluctance on the Democrat side to sign a continuing resolution that would continue to fund the government. But it was a shutdown over the budget, not immigration. The media doesn't want you to look at it that way. The media wants you to think, or wanted you to think, that the government shut down because Republicans hate immigrants. That is the narrative. That's always been the narrative. And that's what's so magnificent about this. That narrative blew up. And the Democrats took full heat and responsibility for it. And so this is Schumer trying to win back the good graces of that radical leftist base of his. I mean, they are fit to be tied. Folks, they're not in this situation often. They don't lose this thing. They never lose a shutdown fight. The media sees to it. The Republicans always lose it, and lose it for the worst of reasons. They hate people. They hate the less fortunate. They hate victims. It's always that way. That's why the Republicans always cowered in fear whenever a government shutdown has come up, and that's why they've always caved on everything. Well, it's a new sheriff in town. You know the drill. Trump says, screw this. And the Democrats were offered three different versions of a bill that people on both sides said they wanted. And it's interesting that both sides agreed to some kind of funding for border protection or a wall in exchange for limited amnesty for dreamers and a few limits on chain migration. And if the Democrats had agreed to that, there would not have been a shutdown. But Chuck Schumer punted on everything he was proposed because the purpose was to shut down the government. So now Schumer and the Democrats are taking big-time heat. So now they're simply getting tough, and they're flexing their muscles, and they're saying, all right, no funding for the wall, and there will be no limits on chain migration. We want total amnesty for the dreamers, and we want chain migration to continue as it is, and that's their new position. As I explained to Mr. Snerdley, they have to hold on to their base. And their base, who do you think the Democrat base is, Mr. Snerdley? I mean, he's trying to download iOS 11. Did 11.2.5 ever show up for you? Well, it will. Just hang in there, be tough. Is it shown up for you yet, Brian? Well, it will. They just released it. It came. Well, true, but there's somebody even more important that's their base, and that's the media. The media is their base first. When the media started dumping over, that's panic time at Chuck Schumerville. When the media starts beating them up, when the media starts telling the world how Chuck Schumer got rolled, I mean, that's panic time. So they lost the media and in their lunatic fringe base. So this is going to be interesting to watch because it's going to come up again in 3 weeks. And jumping back to the phones here, Rush Limbaugh, the EIB network, about 26 and a half minutes after the hour. This is Ken, somewhere on Long Island in New York. Great to have you, sir. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, hi, Rush. It's an honor and privilege to talk to you. I've been listening since you were in New York eating at Patsy's.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And I have an idea I wanted to get out to the president, and this is like the best platform. And I really appreciate Mr. Snerdley taking my call. I think the president should cut Schumer off at the knees. He should go right to the Dreamers and say, hey, look, I'm willing to make a deal. He will not accept anything, so you're going to stay in limbo because they don't want to negotiate in good faith.
And then what'll happen?
Hello?
I think we've got a bad connection, but I think I get he wants Trump to go to the Dreamers and tell the Dreamers that if you stick with Schumer, you're going to get nothing because the guy's out of his mind, losing his mind, and is now making sure that you get nothing. If you stick with me, some of you are going to get to stay, the rest of you are going back home, and none of your family are getting in. You pick which side you want. Well, he wants Trump to play hardball with the Dreamers. Now, folks, I want you to stop here, and I referenced this yesterday, but I want to do this again. This guy Ken, who, by the way, knows of Patsy's, 56 between 8th and Broadway. Fantastic Italian restaurant. Still, it was Sinatra's place. The Dreamers have become a verified left-wing Democrat special interest group. Who are they? They are essentially illegal immigrants, thought of as children, helpless, lovable, wonderful children. We must do it for the children. They're not kids anymore. They're into their mid-20s and older. Some of them are in their 30s. But stop and think of this. The Dreamers have become like the NAACP or Black Lives Matter or Big Labor or the Feminazis or any other left-wing special interest group, but they are illegal immigrants. And the whole Dreamer deal is an unconstitutional deal that Obama announced that he did not have constitutional power to do.